It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 30, looking at the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Honduras. Part 1, the candidates. Here we go! Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 30 on the players of the 2025 CONCACAF Gold Cup. This episode covers Honduras' players. Just a note on where we're at in our media casts. Series 21 to 27 dealt with the 2026 World Cup qualifying. Series 21, for example, covers the Asian region. And we actually did preview the preliminary round there. We were hoping to do more previewing for the qualifying, but life got busy. Nevertheless, we still have hopes of covering it, but we'll now have to do it mostly through reviews. So the past, present, and future mediacast that we produced way back in the spring of 2024 is actually still relevant. It outlines the World Cup 2026 qualifying procedure for each region, and we'll add a link to that in the mediacast. To the mediacast in the show notes. So we will come back to World Cup 2026 qualifying, but after our current focus, which is this 2025 Gold Cup and this episode on Honduras' players. So we're doing this mediacast in two parts. Part one here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examine the participation of players in games over the recent period, as well as a couple of other factors, and then we categorize them into definite, likely, possible, and so on. We'll go into more details on the players we think likely to reach the final squad, and less detail, perhaps even just the names of players unlikely to get there. And part two will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad selected. That's probably in early June. And at that time, we'll go back over the list that we create here to see who made it and who didn't. And we'll also cover things like injuries, surprise selections, and predicted starters. So this episode has three sections. In section one, we'll look at some general information on the team. Section 2 will cover the main candidates in each position, and Section 3 we are going to summarize and conclude, especially focusing on injuries to keep an eye on. All right, let's begin then with Section 1. This is some general information on the team and some comments on the squad. And we begin with, on the screen it says retirements, but we're finding that a bit restrictive. So we'll say big names who seem to be off the squad. So these would be some of their bigger players who may have retired or have been off the team. We only have two to talk about here. First of all, right winger or right attacker Albert Ellis sometimes plays as a forward. And he had 64 caps for the national team and 13 goals and is 29 years old. So actually not really old enough to be retired. I'm actually surprised and a bit miserable that he's gone, but he didn't play for the team since November of 2023 in the 23 Gold Cup. He broke his arm. I think he broke it. He hurt his arm. In game 2, he had been playing well to that point, but that injury ended his tournament. He did appear after that, but only in November 2023 and hasn't appeared since. So I'm kind of hoping he will come back. But Albert Ellis, one of the names in this section who we kind of memorialize here. Jerry Bengtsson is the other. He is a forward. He did actually play at the beginning of this and will feature in the narrative. But Jerry Bengtsson, 70 caps and 23 goals for the national team. He probably is retired because he's 38 years old now and last played for the national team in March of 2024. So those two players we don't expect to be part of the squad this time. Let's go on to recent games that Honduras has played. So we begin our analysis of the positions, at least, by going back to the the Gold Cup in 2023. Honduras didn't pass the group stage there, so just 3 games to talk about. That was in June of 2023. So our analysis begins there. In September and October, we get the 2023 Nations League group stage. So 4 games there. And they did play a friendly also in the fall of 2023. Some of these friendlies are kind of more relevant than others. A couple of them are just experimental with kind of B or C team players there. They reached the quarterfinals there of the 2023 Nations League. And so in November, they played the quarterfinals. They didn't win that, but they went on to play a 2024 Copa America playoff against Costa Rica in March of 2024. That was a single game, which they lost. So they didn't reach the Copa America during the summer there. I think there are more friendlies in here than I'm saying. But anyway, even our analysis focuses more on the main events here. And the next main event was the 2026 World Cup qualifying, starting in CONCACAF. And so Honduras took part in that, playing their first 2 games, in June of 2024. But the next 2 games don't happen until June of 2025 here. The 2024-25 Nations League group stage came next. Again, 2 games in September and October each, so 4 games there in the fall of 2024. And then we have the 2024-25 Nations League finals. So again, they made the quarterfinal, and that was in November of 2024. 2 games there. They once again lost to Mexico, winning the first game there. We're not so much interested in the results, but 2 games there. And then in March, in addition to a friendly in March, they have the 2025 Gold Cup qualifying playoffs, 2 games against Bermuda there, which they won to reach this cup. So there we go. That adds up to, let me see, including some of the friendlies, that adds up to 27 games. And let's look at the formations of those games. We won't go into too much detail here, but the predominant formation they use is a 4-4-2 formation. That is 44% of the games. Then in 26% or 7 of the 27 games, we get a 4-2-3-1 formation. Kind of clustered into one period. In 5 of the games, they used a 4-4-1-1 formation. That cluster of games came around the time of the World Cup qualifiers in June of 2024. And then in 3 of the games, or 11%, a 4-3-3 formation. So let's analyze this. In all 4 formations, we see 4 at the back. So 2 central defenders, a left back and a right back. So we're always going to see that. The midfield almost always has 2, I'm going to say defensive midfielders, but anyway, 2 central midfielders. Well, I shouldn't say defensive, because sometimes it's an attacking midfielder. In the 4-2-3-1 formation, they're definitely defensive. But in the 4-4-2 and 4-4-1-1 formation, they may be, well, I can tell you, it's basically 1 defensive and 1 more attacking midfielder, usually. 4-3-3 formation has a central midfielder and a right and left midfielder, but we don't really have any players specifically playing as right and left midfielders. Okay, let's move on to the last order of business in section 1 here, and that is upcoming games. So they have 2 World Cup qualifying games, the 3rd and 4th of their first round of qualifying. The first is on June 7th against Cayman Islands. That's an away game. And the second on June 10th at home to Antigua and Barbuda. So those games will act as warm-up games for the tournament. And we are hoping to get a look at those games to help us determine who the starters are going to be. So that will be in part 2. All right, let's move on to section 2 here, the main part of the mediacast, where we look at the candidates. And we begin with managers. So we have the current manager, Reynaldo Rueda, and the outgoing manager, but it's been quite a while now, Diego Vasquez here. We'll just look in at the bio of the current manager here, Reynaldo Rueda. So a very experienced international manager. In fact, his second stint with Honduras' national team. This second stint in 2023. The first one was from 2007 to 2010. Additionally, he has managed mostly South American teams here, Colombia twice, Chile, and Ecuador. So yeah, just South American teams, and he's led these teams, led all of these teams through tournaments during his tenure with them. So as far back as the 2004 Copa America, where he was manager of Colombia, and a lot of tournaments since then, but we won't go into too much detail. Rather, let's summarize the position, as it were, the history of the manager over the last little while. So Diego Vasquez had been appointed in June of 2022 following their disastrous campaign for the 2022 World Cup. They finished 8th or last in the final round there, earned only 4 points over their 14 games. So Vasquez was replacing the manager who led them through that. He did a bit better in his short reign, but he was let go after Honduras' group stage exit in the 2023 Gold Cup. So Reynaldo Rueda became the manager in July of 2023, and he led them through to the quarterfinals of the Nations League that year and the following year. And in both cases, they won the first game of the set against Mexico, but in both cases, they lost in Mexico and lost the set. They fell short of the Copa America in 2024, losing a final playoff to Costa Rica, but comfortably reached the 2025 World Cup here, and will hope to do better than a group stage exit. So better results, but really, I think more competitive here under Reynaldo Rueda, and that is the situation with the managers. Let's move on to the players, and we begin with goalkeepers. So we'll name the candidates here first, and then go through and give biographical information on the main candidates. So we have a definite candidate in Edric Menjivar, and then likely candidate Marlon Licona, and also Harold Fonseca, both of those likely. We have really the outgoing starter, Luis Lopez. We might all have mentioned him in section 1, actually, because he does seem to be on his way out, just at the possible but unlikely level here. And we have 3 other players at that level. Actually, I'm going to give the biographical, what biographical information we give as we go for the players at the possible but unlikely level or below. So Luis Lopez, I said, was on his way out. He was the starter ever since the 2017 Gold Cup, and started in the 2023 Gold Cup, but was replaced, and last appeared for the national team. I don't have the date here, but he has not been called up for the last 7 matches. Okay, the second possible but unlikely candidate, and I'll just give the name of these players because they're just possible but unlikely, but not really worth talking about their history with the team because it's too brief. So first one is Esau Flores, then Jonathan Rougier, and Enrique Facus. those three. And actually, Jonathan Rougier did start a game, so should probably be at the top of that list, but still unlikely to be selected. Finally, we have one player seemingly off the squad, and that is Jurgen Garcia. Okay, let's go back and look at some of the players in more detail. So our definite candidate, Eric Menjivar, has 26 caps. I'll start with his age, actually. He's 32 years old and has 26 caps with the national team since 2018. That's a pretty low number because he couldn't get a starting position really ahead of Luis Lopez for a long time. Menjivar has been with Olimpia, one of the main teams in Honduras, since 2010, so 15 years with the same team. His first tournament was the 2021 Gold Cup, where he was on the bench, and on the bench for the 2023 Gold Cup for the first game, but gained the starting position in game 2 there. So Edric Menjivar has started 11 of their 15 games from the start of 2024, and he was on the bench for 1 and not selected for 3 others. I believe those were friendlies. Next, we have the first of our 2 likely candidates, Marlon Licona. I'll actually have to check whether it's pronounced Licona or Licona. He is 34 years old, but just 2 caps for the national team since 2021. And like Menjivar, he's a one-club guy, been with 15 years for Motagua in Honduras. He was also selected for the 2021 Gold Cup, so a backup keeper there, but not selected for the 2023 Gold Cup. Over the recent period, he started 2 of their 15 games. Both of those were experimental friendlies. That was from the start of 2024, and he has been on the bench for 8 matches also, but not selected for 5 others. And the other likely candidate is Harold Fonseca. He is 32 years old and been with the team since 2018, but just 4 caps for him. And he plays for Olancho in Honduras since 2023. All of his clubs have been in Honduras. He was selected for the 2019 Gold Cup as a bench player there, backup, not selected for the 2021 Gold Cup, but was the other backup for the 2023 Gold Cup, Harold Fonseca. So he didn't start any of their 15 games from the start of 2024, but he was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 9 and not selected for 5 others, just like Marlon Licona. So those are really the 3 main candidates, and given that there are no others, all 3 of them seem likely to make it, but we're not really concerning ourselves with starters in part 1 here, but we'll do that in part 2. Let's move on to defenders, and we have we'll go to central defenders here, and we have Luis Vega as a definite candidate, and several likely candidates. Daniel Maldonado is the first of them. Marcelo Santos, he's actually coded as a right back, but during this period played only as a centre back, and some sources have him coded as a centre back. So we'll consider changing that for next time. The third likely candidate, Devron Garcia, and then Raul Garcia, rounding out our list of 4 likely candidates, but many possible candidates as well. No, just 2, sorry. Julian Martinez is the first one, and Carlos Melendez, also a possible candidate. He's an injury concern, which we'll talk about a bit later. We have a possible but unlikely candidate in Wesley Decas. Did get some starts during the period, but has not been selected for the last 9 matches there. And then we go down to seemingly off the squad. Kevin Alvarez is here, not selected for the last 14 matches. Jose Garcia, last cap was in October 2021, so I'm not even sure why he's on the list here. Johnny Devron, a bit of a veteran for the team, but has not appeared since March of 2023. And Marcelo Pereira has not appeared since September 2023. So we'll give more information if these teams do, if these players do make it back into the team, make it back for the final squad here. But for now, we will not go into detail on them, but rather look at the players who are more likely. So let's go back up to Luis Vega, the definite candidate, and he is just 23 years old, but already has 22 caps and 1 goal for the national team since 2023. He plays for Montagua in Honduras since 2023 and Marathon before that. And he actually was selected for the preliminary squad for the 2021 Gold Cup, Luis Vega, but he didn't make the final cut there, and but was selected for the 2023 Gold Cup. He was a starter there, but actually got subbed out of game 2, 24 minutes in due to an injury which ended his tournament. But he has started 12 of their 15 games, has Luis Vega, from the start of 2024, as well as being on the bench for 1. So 2 matches that he was not selected for, and Luis Vega looking like a definite candidate here. The first of our 4 likely candidates is Daniel Maldonado. I'm sorry. Daniel Maldonado is 27 years old with 39 caps and 1 goal for Honduras since 2019, and he plays for his club soccer in Romania for Universitate Craiova in Romania. Prior to that, he played. I was going to say he did play for Montagua in Honduras, but was loaned out to teams in other countries in Mexico, Chile, and USA. So Maldonado was selected for the 2019 Gold Cup on the roster, but saw no action there. But for the 2021 and 2023 Gold Cups, he was not selected. In 2021, though, that's because he was the captain of their Olympic team and played that tournament instead. So Maldonado, over the past while, has started 9 of their 15 games, but was not selected, that since the start of 2024, but was not selected for 6 others. So we think he's a likely candidate, but not always called up. Next, we have Marcelo Santos, as I said, coded as a right back currently, but during this period played only as a centre back. Marcelo Santos has 33 years old and has 22 caps for the national team since 2020. He plays for Montagua in Honduras since 2017. And he has been part of the 2021 Gold Cup, where he was a sub, and 2023 Gold Cup, where he was a starter. Over the recent period, though, he only started 3 of their 15 games. Marcelo Santos started 3, subbed in for 4, and was on the bench for 5. So just 3 matches that he was not called up for, but has not been starting much. But we consider him a likely candidate to be selected for the final squad. The next player, Devron Garcia, also not really a starter, but a likely candidate to be named to the squad. Devron Garcia is 29 years old with 12 caps for Honduras since 2022, and he plays for Real España in Honduras. It's his second stint with them. That second stint from 2019. He did play for, he was loaned out during his career to a team in the USA, but otherwise has played in Honduras. Devron Garcia was part of the 2023 Gold Cup, a starter there. And over the recent period, though, not really a starter, only 2 games that he has started since 2024, but he was on the bench for 10 games. So just 3 games that Devron Garcia was not called up for. And the fourth likely candidate is Raul Garcia. He is 21 years old and brand new to the team since 2025, but has 3 caps already, subbed into 3 games. Raul Garcia, he plays in Honduras for Lobos Universitarios. And he got his first cap, as I said, in March of 2025. Didn't start any of the games, but was subbed into all three. So Raul Garcia in the picture here for selection for the final squad. We have two possible candidates, or two candidates at the possible level. The first one is Julian Martinez, and he's young too, just 22 years old, with 4 caps and 1 goal since 2023, and he plays for Olympia in Honduras. Um, he got his first cap in September of 2023, and over the period we're looking at since the start of 2024, he started 2 games and was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 6. But there were 6 matches that Julian Martinez was not selected for. So we have him as a possible candidate. Finally, we have Carlos Melendez, and I don't think I'll go into detail on him because his injury looks like it's going to keep him out of the cup. We'll give more information on that in section 3, but that probably makes him makes him off the squad this time. So that's central defense. And let's move on to the left back position. Once again, always a 4 at the back formation for Honduras. So always a left back and a right back. We never see them pushing up to become wingers, as we do with many teams that put a 3-man central defense on the team. So pretty steady Eddie for Honduras here. And let's look at the candidates. None at the definite level, but we have Joseph Rosales at the likely level. He's actually coded as a right midfielder, the one position he hasn't played, but we'll talk about that when we get there. The other likely candidate is Franklin Flores. Then we have 2 possible candidates, Javier Arriaga and Ellison Rivas. And finally, we have a player seemingly off the squad, Omar Elvier. We're going to see him pop up in the narrative during the 2023 Gold Cup. But in terms of biography, we'll just say that was his last appearance for the team in the Gold Cup. So let's go back and look at the main candidates here. Joseph Rosales, as I said, coded as a right midfielder. In the Gold Cup, he played as a left attacking winger in game 2 and as a right attacking winger in game 3. And we often do see him kind of on the wing. But he is played more as a left back, including the first game of the 2023 Gold Cup. So Joseph Rosales is 25 years old, and he has 20 caps and 3 goals for the national team since 2022. And he plays for Minnesota United in the USA since 2023, and was a team in Panama, Independiente, from 2018 to 2022, so has played mostly out of the country. His first tournament was the 2023 Gold Cup, Joseph Rosales, and he started all 3 games there, again in 3 different positions. And Joseph Rosales started 8 of their 15 games from the start of 2024, and he was injured for 1 and not selected for 6 others, including the last 2 matches. So he might have been a definite candidate, but that throws a little bit of doubt on Joseph Rosales, and he's a likely candidate. Next, we have Franklin Flores. He is 29 years old and has 15 caps for the national team, no goals since 2020, and he was a substitute in both the 2021 and 2023 Gold Cups. He did see a little action in the first of those, but not in the second. Franklin Flores was then off the team for a while, but he returned after a 13-month absence in October of 2024, and he started the last 2 of their remaining 7 games, subbing in for 1 and on the bench for 2, and not selected for 2. So Franklin Flores making a bit of a comeback into the team. We're going to see several players actually making a comeback. And at this point, he seems a likely candidate. The first of the two possible candidates is Javier Arriaga, and he is just 21 years old. With 2 caps for Honduras since 2024, and he plays for Marathon in Honduras, one of their bigger clubs. He was actually selected for the preliminary squad for the 2023 Gold Cup. Didn't make the cut there though, and hadn't played a game when he was named to that squad. He got his first appearance on the bench in January of 2024 and started 2 of their remaining 15 games. And was on the bench for 5, but not selected for 8 others, including the last 3 matches. So Javier Arriaga, a possible candidate. And the other possible candidate is Ellison Rivas. He is 26 years old with 4 caps for Honduras since 2023. He plays for Olancho in Honduras, but did play for a team in Colombia for a brief period before that. He also was named to the 2023 preliminary squad without ever having been called up. Didn't make the final cut there. He was also absent from the team for a period. So he returned after a 16-month absence in March of 2025 and started 1 of their remaining 3 games and was on the bench for 2 others, the last 2 matches, Ellison Rivas. So again, a new candidate in March that we have to factor into our judgment. But our judgment at this point is possible candidate. Over on the right side, we have, Marcelo Santos, again, coded as a right back, but we moved him to centre back. So our first candidate is the definite candidate, Andy Najjar. We have no players at the likely level, but 2 at the possible level. The first is Carlos Meja, and then Christopher Melendez. We have a whole bunch of players at the possible but unlikely level, 3 of them. So we'll just give the names here. There's Oscar Almendares, not selected for the last 7 matches. Maylor Nunes, who does come up in the narrative, but not selected for the last 8 matches. And Carlos Argueta, not selected for the last 9 matches. So again, we'll give more details if those are selected. We should probably put Maylor Nunes at the top of that list, though, because if they are called back, he would be the most likely one. So let's look at the candidates here. The definite candidate, Andy Najjar, is actually often plays as a right winger. I've seen him play as a right attacking midfielder as well. But for this period, we've moved him to right back, as that's where he's been for most of this period. So Andy Najjar, 32 years old now, with actually 33 because he was born in March. And I should say that the ages of the players we're giving here will be a year off if they were born between January and today, which is the middle of May. So forgive us if we're a year off. We'll update their actual ages if they're selected for the tournament. Andy Najjar, I think I got my math wrong there. He's 32 years old. 57 caps and 5 goals for Honduras since 2011. And he plays for Nashville in USA. He's played quite a bit in the USA, especially recently. But he also played in Belgium, Anderlecht in Belgium. For a period. Andy Najjar's first tournament was, actually the Olympics in 2012, where they reached the quarterfinals, but the 2013 Gold Cup. So he played a couple of tournaments there, including the 2014 World Cup. But since the 2017 Gold Cup, he hasn't participated in any tournaments. Injured for a couple of those. And really, he seemed to be off the team and is making a bit of a comeback here, starting 10 of their 15 games from the start of 2024 and not selected for four matches, but he's really kind of inserted himself back into the team. An interesting history for Andy Najjar, our definite candidate. The first of the possible candidates is Carlos Meja. He is 28 years old, but just 6 caps with the national team since 2022. He plays for Real España in Honduras since 2020, and he got his first appearance in September 2022, but was off the team after that and returned after a 21-month absence, so almost 2 years there, coming back in June of 2024 and starting 2 of their remaining 10 games, as well as subbing in for 1. However, he was not selected for 7 others. And I'm guessing those 2 starts were recent, so they put him kind of on the radar here as a possible candidate. The other possible candidate is Christopher Melendez, and he is 28 years old with 5 caps for the national team since 2023 and has been with Montagua in Honduras since 2016. So coming up on 10 years there. But for the national team, he was only a consideration since 2023, where having never been called up for Honduras, he was named to the preliminary squad. Didn't make the cut there, though. I made a mistake there. He had earned a single cap in November of 2021. And then after a 3-year absence from the team, came back in September of 2024. Christopher Melendez to start 2 of their remaining games, as well as subbing in for 2 and being on the bench for 1. So since his return, just 3 matches that he was not selected for, but that does include the last match. So all in all, that boiled down to us to being a possible candidate, Christopher Melendez, and that is the end of defense. And we move on to the midfield, and we'll just talk a little bit about the position of the midfield, and I also have one player to introduce as a versatile midfielder also. So in terms of the position, various midfield formations are used, but it is almost always a 2-man midfield. In the 4-4-2, which they use 44% of the time, it could be a defensive. In fact, it is a defensive, usually alongside a more attacking midfielder. However, equally as much, it's a 2-line midfielder with 2 defensive midfielders, as in the 4-2-3-1 formation. We do have 3 games, or 12% of the games, with a 4-3-3 formation with a central, left, and right midfielder. So we'll talk to that when we get to left and right midfielder, but it's really not a position, left and right midfield, where they have which they use a lot. Okay, let us look at our versatile midfielder then. We put him in this category because his name is going to pop up all over the place in the coming positions. We have Jorge Alvarez, and he's a definite candidate. So starting a lot of games, but in various positions. Playing as a defensive, central, attacking midfielder, and even as a forward during this period. So we'll call him a versatile midfielder. Jorge Alvarez is 27 years old with 30 caps and 1 goal for Honduras since 2019. And he plays for another of their big teams, Olimpia. I'm not sure we've mentioned them yet. Olimpia in Honduras since 2017. He was selected for the 2019 Gold Cup, where he started as a sub but gained a starting position, but was not selected for the 2021 Gold Cup, not making the final cut there. But the 2023 Gold Cup, he started 2 of the 3 games. So Jorge Alvarez has started 10 of their 15 games in various positions from the start of 2024, as well as subbing in for 1 and on the bench for 3 matches. So just 1 match that he was not selected for. Last time we went through Honduras, we also put Brian Acosta as a versatile midfielder. He's coded on most sources as a central midfielder, and we're going to move him back to central midfielder because he doesn't really act as a well. He actually does act as a versatile midfielder in that he's playing various positions in his starts. However, he doesn't get a lot of starts here, so we don't feel a need to kind of introduce him here to keep through your mind as you go through the positions the way we do with Jorge Alvarez. Okay, so that is versatile midfield. Let us go on to defensive midfielders and introduce the candidates. So we have a definite candidate in Debbie Flores and a likely candidate in Kervin Arriaga. And then three possible candidates: Carlos Pineda, David Ruiz, and Jack Jean-Baptiste. We will take a look at those, but we won't take a close look at the players below this level. So we'll basically name them. The first of the possible but unlikely candidates is Henry Gomez Lopez, just used in an experimental friendly in January 2025. The next is Francisco Martinez, not selected for the last 9 matches, and Jonathan Nunez. Well, I won't. It's a bit of a long explanation. He is a possible but unlikely candidate, nevertheless. And we also have 3 players off the squad, or seemingly off the squad. Hector Castellanos last appeared in March of 2023. Gerson Chavez last appeared in January 2024, having come back from a year and a half absence to play that game. And Juan Delgado actually returned after a 2-year absence to play a friendly and then didn't appear again. So those 3 players with a chance of making it back to the squad. They're not completely off it, and we do sometimes see them called in, but not looking very likely at this point. Let's go to the candidates and take a look. The main candidates, at least. Debbie Flores is 29 years old with 46 caps and 1 goal for Honduras since 2015. He currently plays for Toronto FC in Canada, where we're broadcasting from here. That's the other side of the country, though. He's been with Toronto since 2024. He's a bit of a globetrotter, playing in Hungary, Greece, Canada, of course. Actually has a bit of a relationship with Canada because he played with the Vancouver Whitecaps. I want to back off on my Globetrotter comment, though, because it turned out to be not as true as it initially seemed. Anyway, Debbie Flores resumed play for the national team in 2018 after a 3-year absence, and again in 2021 after a 2-year absence. So it's kind of on and off the team, which is a bit ironic given his current situation where he seems a real mainstay in the team. So not selected for the 2019 Gold Cup, didn't make the final cut there. But was a starter in the 2021 and 2023 Gold Cups and has started 11 of their 15 games, Debbie Flores, from the start of 2024. And then 4 matches that he was not selected for, but all of those were friendlies. So, as I say, a real mainstay in the team and a definite candidate here. The likely candidate is Kervin Arriaga, and he is 27 years old, with 32 caps and 4 goals for Honduras since 2020. He plays for Minnesota United in the USA since 2022, and was with in Honduras prior to that. Bit shocking that he had not been selected for the 2023 Gold Cup because he seemed a definite candidate there, but was actually off the team during that period, but he returned after an 8-month absence in June of 2024 to start 8 of their remaining 12 games, as well as subbing in for one. So just 3 matches that he was not selected for. So might finally get his first tournament, having not been selected for the 2 tournaments since his first cap. Kervin Arriaga, a likely candidate then. The first of our possible candidates, our 3 possible candidates, is Carlos Pineda, and he is 28 years old with 17 caps for the national team since 2019. But he hasn't been selected for a tournament other than the Olympic squad in 2021. So that's the reason, really, he wasn't selected for the 2021 Gold Cup, but really hasn't been a big part of the team. He started 3 of their 15 games since the start of 2024 and subbed in for 2, but he was on the bench for 7. And that's a good record of call-ups, just 3 matches that he wasn't selected for. However, those were the last 3 matches, leaving us in a bit of doubt as to whether he will actually make his first tournament here. So Carlos Pineda, a possible candidate. David Ruiz also has not been in a tournament. He's just 21 years old and has 7 caps and 3 goals. So he's scoring for Honduras since his first cap in 2023. And he plays for Inter Miami in the USA since 2023. David Ruiz got his first appearance on the bench in September 2023 and started 2 of their 15 games from the start of 2024, as well as subbing in for 4. But he was injured for, he was not selected for 6, and he was injured for 3 matches. Those were the last 3 matches. So David Ruiz is an injury concern. And we're not sure what his situation is. We'll talk about it in section 3. But David Ruiz, just at the possible level here, despite some factors which make him seem slightly more likely than that. Okay, the third possible candidate is Jacques Jean-Baptiste, and he is 26 years old. Just 1 cap for the national team, though, since 2022. Jean-Baptiste plays for Olympia in Honduras since 2023. Okay, so he got a single appearance on the bench in January 2022, but then wasn't called up after that. He returned after a 3-year absence in March of 2025, so just recently, but didn't start any of their remaining 3 games. But he was on the bench for 2 and then not selected for 1 other, which was the last match. So perhaps he's coming in as a bit of a replacement for David Ruiz, but we're not sure about either of them. So he too is at the possible level. We do have, a lot of players we could call back into action for this position. But we won't talk about the position of defensive midfielder yet, because we'll cover central midfielders first and then talk about it in general. And somewhat surprisingly, we only have 1 real candidate here among the central midfielders. We do have Edwin Rodriguez, who is coded as a central midfielder, and he does play central midfield sometimes, but he plays more as an attacking midfielder. So we're going to move Edwin Rodriguez to a versatile attacking midfielder and talk about him a bit later when we move upfield. The candidate we will talk about here, though, is the player I mentioned that was a versatile midfielder last time, and that is Brian Acosta. But we only have him as a possible candidate here. Just, I need a moment. A possible candidate, we'll tell you why shortly. But Brian Acosta is a veteran for Honduras. He has 71 caps and 2 goals and is 32 years old. And he played, or has been with Honduras since 2014. He also plays for Nashville. I think we've seen 2 other players so far. Nashville in the USA. That's his just since 2025. Um, but he has been with several clubs in the USA and has also played in Turkey and Spain. So Brian Acosta's first tournament for Honduras was the 2015 Gold Cup, and he's been called up for all, let me count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tournaments since then. The Gold Cup every 2 years since 2015. But over the recent period, Brian Acosta has not started any of their 15 games from the start of 2024. He was subbed in for 3. But not selected for 6 matches. He was also out with 2 separate injuries for 5 games, and those include the last 3 matches. But he has recovered from that injury, so he's not on the injury list. But Brian Acosta, the veteran, just a possible candidate here. So let's look briefly at left and right midfielders, because we did have 3 games where they used a 4-3-3 formation. So that has a right and a left midfielder. 2 of those 3 games were friendly, so they were kind of unfamiliar names sometimes, or out of position players in those. In fact, 9 different players were used over the 3 games. So really, there's nothing to be learned from them. Certainly, no player was predominating in the role. We do have some players who are actually coded as left and right midfielders, but we've moved them to other positions. So we'll just go through that quickly. But otherwise, there's not much to talk about here. Our versatile midfielder, Jorge Alvarez, is primarily coded as a left midfielder, but he plays all over the field, and we've moved him to versatile midfielder, at least for this period. We'll consider recoding him afterwards. We also have a couple of players coded as left midfielder who are off the squad, or seemingly off the squad. The first is Christian Altamirano, seemingly off the squad, having last played in the 2023 Gold Cup, and in fact didn't play there, just appeared briefly as a substitute there. The other one is Walter Martinez, and he last appeared for the national team in March of 2023. So again, we will talk about them if they come back into the picture, but right now seem to be out of the picture. On the right, we do have Andy Najar, who's coded as a right midfielder, but we moved him to right defense, as he's played most of his games during this period as a right back. Otherwise, we have one player seemingly off the squad. That is Kevin Lopez, and he last appeared for the team in March of 2023. So not a player that we want to dwell on here. And that is it for the kind of the defensive end of the midfield. So we're going to move on to the attacking midfield here. And we'll begin by introducing a versatile attacking midfielder. He is actually coded as a central midfielder, but we're moving him here. It's Edwin Rodriguez. I think I've kept you in too much suspense by not mentioning his name there. Edwin Rodriguez, actually just a possible candidate here, but he plays a bigger role than that suggests. And we'll talk about it. He's the only one here, so we can introduce him now. He is 26 years old, Edwin Rodriguez, and has 39 caps and 6 goals for Honduras since 2019. And he plays for Olympia in Honduras since 2018. However, he was loaned to Aris Thessalonica in Greece back in 2022. And he was also one of those candidates who missed the 2021 Gold Cup because he was on the Olympic squad. Um, but he also didn't make the 2023 Gold Cup, a bit surprisingly there. But over the last period, he has started 11 of their 15 games since the start of 2024. You may be asking, he started 11 games. How dare you put him as a possible candidate? Well, the reason is because the only 3 matches he was not selected for were the last 3 matches. So that creates a bit of doubt in our mind as to whether he is going to be a consideration for the squad. But, I would say somewhere between possible and likely for Edwin Rodriguez, because he has been starting a lot over the period. Okay, we move up to left attackers. Let me tell you a little bit about this position. Soccer Files has come to see this as the left and right attacking position as dependent on the formation. So usually it's an attacking winger in the 4-4-2 formation for Honduras, which they use almost half the time. It can be an attacking midfielder, like in the 4-2-3-1 formation, or a left forward in the 4-3-3 formation. So all of these positions are used over the period for Honduras. And but in 60% of the games for Honduras, it's a 4-4-2 formation. So let's look at the candidates here. We have no definite candidate, but a likely candidate in Luis Palma. He's actually coded as an attacking midfield, but we've moved him over here because this is where he played mostly during the period. Same is true of Jose Pinto, who is coded as a forward. Those are the 2 likely candidates. 2 possible candidates also in Carlos Mejia and Christian Sacasa. And then we have 2 possible but unlikely candidates, Jason Mejia. I won't go into detail on why we've put him here. Alexi Vega is a bit more straightforward. Has not been selected for the last 9 matches there. So again, we'll give more details on them if they return. And seemingly off the squad, Edwin Solano last appeared in the 2023 Gold Cup. Let's go back and look at the main candidates here then. Luis Palma is 25 years old with 20 caps and 5 goals for Honduras since 2021. Palma plays for Celtic in Scotland since 2023 and has recently been loaned out to Olympiacos in Greece since 2025. He had played in Greece before for Aris Thessalonica from 2022 to 23, and was with Vida in Honduras before that. He was not selected for any cups so far. He was on the Olympic team, so missed the 2021 Gold Cup, but then didn't make the final cut for the 2023 Gold Cup. But has come into more prominence recently, starting 7 of their 15 games since the start of 2024. He was subbed in for 1, injured for 2, and not selected for 5 matches. But he was their top scorer in qualifying, getting 4 of their 17 goals. So that makes him a bit more likely, given that he's scoring for them, and he is a likely candidate, Luis Palma. The other likely candidate is Jose Pinto, as I said, coded as a forward. He is 28 years old. 18 caps and 3 goals for Honduras since 2021, and he plays for Olympia in Honduras since 2018. His whole club career has been in Honduras. Also on the Olympic squad for the 2021 Gold Cup. He was actually on the preliminary squad for the 2019 Gold Cup also, but didn't make the final cut. So his first tournament was in for the 2023 Gold Cup, where he was a starter in games 1 and 3. Jose Pinto has started 4 of their 15 games since the start of 2024. as well as subbing in for 4 and being on the bench for 1. He was not selected for 6 of the 15 matches. So Jose Pinto, also a likely candidate. The first of the possible candidates is Carlos Mejia, and he's 25 years old, but just 2 caps for the national team, the first of those in 2024, so been with the team not that long. He plays for Montagua in Honduras since 2021. And as I say, got his first cap in January of 2024, started only one of their remaining 15 games and subbed in for one. And was not selected for 13 others. But he had been called up recently. The last 2 matches he wasn't selected for, but he was on the roster in November. And his recent participation puts him at the possible level here. Both of his appearances were in experimental friendlies there. So a possible candidate. The other possible candidate, Christian Sacasa, is 27 years old with 4 caps for Honduras since 2022, and he plays for Marathon in Honduras since 2023. And he was called up 6 times in the first half of 2022 and then was off the team. But returned after a more than 2.5-year absence just recently in March of 2025. Didn't start any of the remaining 3 games, but was subbed in for 1. That was the experimental friendly, not the Gold Cup qualifier. And he wasn't selected for the Gold Cup qualifying matches. So both of these players are actually close to being at the unlikely level. But we have them at the possible level. That was what we kind of balanced out on. Okay, that is the left attacking side. Let's move on over to the right and introduce the candidates here. So we have Rommel Kyoto. He's coded as a forward, but we're putting him as a likely candidate here as a right attacker. And we also have Rigobert Rivas as a likely candidate. He also is coded as a forward, but we've moved him here. And sorry, he's not at the likely level, but at the possible level. And then we have 2 players at the possible but unlikely. The first is Samuel Elvier. Call back in for January 2024 friendly, or in fact that was his first and only appearance for the national team. So he's unlikely. And Jesus Batiz, not selected for the last 7 matches. So both of those unlikely. Finally, we have seemingly off the squad. I'm quite miserable about this. Albert Ellis, really a great player for them. We kind of introduced him as in section 1, and there we said his last appearance was in November 2023. He's only 29 years old though, and again I'm surprised he's off the team because he's been part of every tournament since the 2017 Gold Cup and an important player in some of those tournaments. Anyway, Albert Ellis seemingly off the squad at this point, and let's go back and look at the main candidates. Rommel Kyoto is 34 years old. 34 years old with 69 caps and 16 goals for Honduras since 2012, and he's been with Al Arabi in Saudi Arabia since 2024. He was with a team in Iran, Tractor. They're now called Tractor. They used to be called Tractor Sazi. He was just with them just for a short time and also played in Canada and the USA as well. Rommel Kyoto was part of the squad for the, he was on the preliminary squad as far back as the 2013 Gold Cup. His first tournament, though, was the 2015 Gold Cup, and he's been part of every tournament up until the 2021 Gold Cup. but was injured for the 2023 Gold Cup and off the team, actually. He returned after a 17-month absence. So off the team for about a year and a half, but came back in March of 2025 to start both of their remaining games. So because he's such a veteran for the team and started both games in March, we got to think that the manager is considering him quite strongly. And so we have him as a likely candidate, Ronald Kyoto. The possible candidate is Rigobert Rivas, and he is 27 years old, 25 caps for Honduras since 2019. But though he is coded as a forward, he does not have any goals for the national team. He plays for Kocaelispor in Turkey since 2025. He was with Hatayspor in Turkey before that, and has played in Italy for several teams, most notably Inter Milan from 2017 to 2021. He didn't actually play any games with them. He was loaned out to other teams, but just being on that squad looks pretty good on a resume. Having said that, even though he was on the preliminary squad as far back as the 2017 Gold Cup, Rigobert Rivas, he has not been selected for any tournament. He was on the Olympic squad, which was why he missed the 2021 Gold Cup, but not selected for any tournament. He started 5 of their 15 games since the start of 2024, and he was injured for 1 and not selected for 10 others, including the last 3 matches. So, despite a pretty good resume at the club level, he's not been selected for a squad, nor has he scored any goals. So Rigobert Rivas, kind of an intriguing history there with Costa Rica, and just a possible candidate here. All right, that's the right attackers. Let's move to central attackers. So this position is used quite a bit, central attacking midfield for Honduras. In 26% of games, they use a 4-2-3-1 formation, so a sole central attacking midfielder. And we can fold actually the secondary striker position used in the 4-4-1-1 formation. That was used in 4 games, or 18% of the time. And then 44% of the time was a 4-4-2 formation. We saw that one of the players is almost always Davy Flores, a defensive midfielder, but often there he's partnered with a more attacking midfielder. So some of the names that have come up, for example, versatile midfielder Edwin Rodriguez in the position. So this position is used quite a bit. So let's look at the candidates that are here. First, we have Alexander Lopez, and he is at the likely level here. And we have Luis Palma, also coded for this position as a central, as an attacking midfielder, but we've moved him to left attacker for this period. And the only other one is at the possible but unlikely level. I think I led you to believe there was a whole bunch of candidates here, but not so. The possible but unlikely candidate is João Benavides, but he has not been selected for the last 9 matches, so that's as much as we'll say about him unless he comes back in part 2. Let's look at Alexander Lopez then, the likely candidate here. He is 33 years old and has 66 caps and 7 goals for Honduras since 2010. So he was with the Olympic squad in 2012 and has played in every tournament since the 2013 Gold Cup. Actually, I don't have him here for the 2015 Gold Cup, but otherwise played every tournament and a starter in all of them since the 2019 Gold Cup. Alexander Lopez has started 5 of their 15 games from the beginning of 2024, as well as subbing in for 4 and being on the bench for 5. So just 1 match that he was not selected for. And we do see Alexander Lopez in various positions. But the only one really worth mentioning is is this one. Single appearances, I believe, as a left attacking midfielder as well. Let's move on to the forward line. We do see they used a 4-4-1-1 formation, so they used the position of secondary striker in 5 games. But since there's no player designated as a secondary striker, and because 4 different players were used when they used that formation, we folded that position into our discussion of central attacking midfielders there. So the main candidates there are Alexander Lopez and Jorge Alvarez. Okay, so we can now go to the forwards and look at the candidates that we have here. I'll just say, in terms of the position, it's a 2-man forward line in 44% of the games, the 4-4-2 formation, and a single forward otherwise. And we include that single forward in the 4-3-3 formation, where we consider the 2 outside forwards to be left and right attackers. Okay, candidates here, none at the definite level, but we have Jorge Bengucci as the first likely candidate, and we have Justin Arboleda also as a likely candidate here. We do have a couple of candidates who we moved. So we moved Jose Pinto, coded as a forward, to left attacker, and Rommel Kyoto coded as a forward to right attacker here. So it's not out of the question that they'll play as a forward either. At the possible level, we have Anthony Lozano, sometimes called Choco Lozano. And we also have Eddie Hernandez here. And we have, we would have Rigobert Rivas, but we also moved him to a right attacker. And I believe he was at the possible level. Rubilio Castillo is the third possible candidate there, and Brian Roches also. Oh my goodness, we have 2 more besides Douglas Martinez and Juan Carlos Obregon. So 6 possible candidates there. We don't have any at the possible but unlikely level, but we do have Jerry Bengtsson seemingly off the squad. We introduced him in part 1 because he's a veteran for the team, but has not appeared since March of 2024. And we also have Michael Chirinos as seemingly off the squad. He has not been selected for the last 11 matches. We have Derrickson Vuelto, not selected for the last 12 matches, and Daniel Carter last appearing in January 2024. So those 4 names seemingly off the squad, and we'll only talk about them in more detail in part 2 if they're brought back in. Okay, let's look at the candidates here, beginning with Jorge Bengucci. He is 29 years old with 20 caps and 5 goals for Honduras since 2019. The only tournament he's participated in is the 2023 Gold Cup, despite getting his first cap in 2019, and he was a starter in that tournament. He was actually off the team for a while after that, for a year, and returned in October 2024 to start 2 of their remaining 7 games, as well as subbing in for 5. So seems to have re-established himself on the team, Jorge Bengucci, and is a likely candidate here. The other one is Justin Arboleda. So he is 34 years old, but got his first cap in 2024. But has 5 caps for Honduras. He plays for Olympia in Honduras, and he is born in Colombia, so has played some teams for Colombia and other teams in South and Central America. Justin Arboleda got his first cap in November 2024. He started 1 of their remaining 5 games and subbed in for all 4 others. So coming into the team late, but getting some field time, is Justin Arboleda. Okay, the first of six possible candidates, and we might have him at the likely level. I'll tell you why we don't. Anthony Lozano is 32 years old with 55 caps and 14 goals since 2011, and plays for Santos Laguna in Mexico since 2024. He was with Getafe in Spain before that and has played for several teams in Spain over the years. Choco Lozano's first tournament was the Olympics in 2012 and the 2015 Gold Cup, where he was a starter, but really has struggled to be a starter on the team after that. He's appeared in about half of the tournaments. No, he appeared in 2017 and 2019. Not so much a starter in those games, and then not even selected for the 2021 and 2023 Gold Cup. So has drifted off the team over the years. He did kind of come back in this period, though. He started. Anthony Lozano started 7 of their 15 games from the start of 2024, but was not selected for 8 matches, and that includes the last 5. So kind of made a comeback, and then at the end was off the team again. So we have Anthony Lozano as just a possible candidate here, but he does feature quite a bit in the summary of this position. The second possible candidate, Eddie Hernandez, is 34 years old with 29 caps and 8 goals since 2011. He was part of the 2011 and 2015 Gold Cups, but was not selected for a tournament. Not selected for a tournament since then. So the last 4 tournaments he was not selected for, and he returned after a more than 3-year absence in March 2025, Eddie Hernandez, to start 2 of their remaining 3 games and was on the bench for the other. So he kind of looked like he was off the team, and here he is back. I think I forgot to give his club history. So he's back playing in Honduras with Olancho since 2024. But has played outside the country in many countries, India, Colombia, China, Mexico, and Kazakhstan, but always seems to come back to Honduras as well. So Eddie Hernandez, a possible candidate. Okay, let's go to the third possible candidate, Rubio Castillo. He's 34 years old. You can see these players are aging, quite a few of them. 37 caps and 7 goals since 2015 for Rubilio Castillo. Sometimes he's called Roman Castillo, by the way. And his first tournament was the 2015 Gold Cup, but he seemed to be selected for every second tournament there. So didn't make it in 2017 and 2021, but was selected in 2019 and 2023. There. So he returned after a year-long absence in June of 2024. So after the Gold Cup, he was not selected for a year. And Castillo didn't start any of their remaining 12 games, but he was subbed in for 4 and on the bench for 5. And just 3 matches he was not selected for. But we put him at the possible level because those were the last 3 matches. So creates a bit of doubt as to whether he is in the manager's plans. The fourth of 6 possible candidates, Brian Roches, is 30 years old with 28 caps and 5 goals since 2014. He's playing in Portugal right now for a team called Mafra, and has played, interestingly, for Angola's top team, Petro Atletico, before that. And he has played in the USA as well, Brian Roches, but really struggled to get into tournaments, despite being on the preliminary squad as far back as the 2015 Gold Cup. He has never been selected for a tournament. usually selected for the preliminary squad and not making the final cut. Over the past little while, beginning from the start of 2024, he has started one of their 15 games, but was subbed in for 4 and on the bench for 3. But not selected for 7 others, including the last 5 matches. So Brian Roches, almost unlikely, I would say. The next is Douglas Martin. He's number 5, and he is 28 years old with 8 caps and 1 goal for the national team, despite being on it since 2019. So basically, he was not part of the 2021 Gold Cup squad because he was playing on the Olympic squad. And was off the team after that. Returned, though, after a 3-year absence in January 2024 and started one of their remaining 15 games, as well as subbing in for 3 and appearing on the bench in 3. But he was not selected for 8 matches, and that includes the last 3. So Douglas Martinez, a possible candidate here. Finally, our 6th candidate, Juan Carlos Obregon, has been with Honduras since 2024, and he has 2 caps for the national team. He's born in the USA and has been with teams in the USA since 2023, but he did play for Montagua in Honduras in 2023. For Honduras, Obregon got his first cap in September 2024, didn't start any of the remaining 9 games, but was subbed in for 2 and not selected for 7 others. He did appear actually in November 2024, so is still perhaps on the radar, but was not selected for the last 3 matches. So a possible candidate, Obregon. So a lot of forwards for them to choose from. And that is it, the forwards. We've finished our business in section 2, and we move on to section 3. Section 3, where we welcome listeners who are just tuning in for the short version here. We're releasing a short version here. So I'll just tell any new listeners that in the full version, we introduced the candidates and their likelihood of making the final squad. We gave a bit of bio information on the more likely candidates, and we summarized each position and who has been occupying it basically since the 2023 Gold Cup. So for those just listening to the short version, you can go back and get all the details for the reasons for our prediction in the full version. And for those who have listened to the whole thing, this is a review summary. But as we've said throughout, we're not really concerning ourselves with predicting starters at this point. We're just really looking at the candidates and their likelihood of making the squad. So let's go back to the top of the list and review it. We begin with manager Reynaldo Rueda, current manager of the team, and he's been here since shortly after the 2023 Gold Cup. Goalkeepers, we have a definite candidate in Edric Menjivar, and 2 likely candidates, Marlon Lacona and Harold Fonseca, and those will probably be the 3 because we have none at the possible level, and but we do have several at the possible but unlikely level. I'll only mention Luis Lopez because he was the starter for a while, but lost his position after the first game in the 2023 Gold Cup and has basically been off the team since then. Not completely, though. But he's possible but unlikely here. That's the goalkeepers. Let's move on to defenders and central defenders. We have a definite candidate in Luis Vega, and then 4 likely candidates in Daniel Maldonado, Marcelo Santos, Devron Garcia, and Raul Garcia. And we also have 2 possible candidates in Julian Martinez and Carlos Melendez. No one we really want to mention below that level. So let's move on to left backs. We have no definite candidate here, but 2 likely candidates. The first is Joseph Rosales, who's coded as a right midfielder, but has played left back mostly during this period, so we moved him back here. And we also have Franklin Flores as a likely candidate, and then two possible candidates, Javier Arriaga and Ellison Rivas. Over to the right back position, we have the return of Andy Najar, making a big return here and a definite candidate. He's really coded as a right midfielder, can play upfield, but in this period has been a right back. There are no candidates at the likely level, but two possible candidates in Carlos Mejia and Christopher Melendez. And the only player I'll name below that is possible but unlikely, Mailer Nunez, because he did get some starts during this period. So if anyone is going to make a comeback in this position, it will probably be him. Let's move on to the midfield. And we start actually with... we're looking at more defensive midfielders here, but we start actually with Jorge Alvarez, who is a definite candidate and has been all over the field during this period. In fact, he's, I think, playing as a forward in the most recent games. So we put him as a versatile midfielder here. He's really more of a central to attacking midfielder, I would say. And then strictly defensive midfielders, we have a definite candidate in Davy Flores and a likely candidate in Kervin Arriaga. And then three possible candidates, Carlos Pineda, David Ruiz, and Jack Jean-Baptiste. And we're not going to mention any of the six players below that level. Central midfield, we only really have one candidate here at the possible level. That's Brian Acosta, and he's pretty versatile, plays all over the field, but hasn't played that much during this period. Left and right midfielders, for players who have played a lot and are coded that way, we've moved them to basically where they've been playing a lot. They only use this position, the 4-3-3 formation, a few times here, and we don't really have any players playing in this position. When they use it, it's players from other positions filling the role. So we don't have any candidates at the possible level or above coded as these positions. So we can move on to attacking midfielders. Here too, we have a versatile player in Edwin Rodriguez. So we put him as a versatile attacker because he popped up in discussions in several positions in the attacking midfield. So Edwin Rodriguez, coded as a central midfielder, but playing more as an attacking midfielder. The left attacking position, which could be a winger, an attacking midfielder, or even a forward in a 4-3-3 formation. We have no definite candidates for left attacker, but we have two likely candidates. Luis Palma, who's actually coded as an attacking midfielder, and Jose Pinto actually coded as a forward. But those are the two players who pop up mostly here on the left attacking position. And we have two possible candidates, Carlos Mejia and Christian Sakaza. There again, not mentioning any of the players below that level. As a right attacker, we have the comeback of Romo Kyoto, coded as a forward, but coming back into this right attacking position for the last two games. And then we have possible candidate Rigoberto Rivas, who's also coded as a forward, but has been playing over here. I will mention one player below that level, though, seemingly off the squad, to my surprise, Albert Ellis. I'm personally hoping he'll make a comeback for this cup. Central attacking midfield, they do use the position quite a bit. Various players in it, though. We do have likely candidate Alexander Lopez here, and he's the only one we mentioned here, but other players have been playing in this position as well. Forwards, they have used the secondary striker position in a 4-4-1-1 formation in 4 games. That was around the summer of 2024. But it was generally central attacking midfielders or other players in the position. So we don't have anyone coded or particularly playing as a secondary striker. Let's look at the forwards then. We have no definite candidate. The position is a bit undecided, but we have two likely candidates in Jorge Bengucci and newcomer Justin Arboleda. And then we have six possible candidates in Anthony Lozano, sometimes called Choco Lozano, Eddie Hernandez, Rubilio Castillo, sometimes called Roman Castillo, Brian Roches, Douglas Martinez, and Juan Carlos Obregon. All six of those have been involved enough that we considered them possible candidates. And that brings us to the end of our review of candidates for the squad. So let us go to a review of injuries. So we have two players here. And the first one we put at the unknown, so unknown return date, that's David Ruiz. He is out. It's just listed as a strain, actually, so we're not sure what kind of strain it is, but he's been out since mid-March until the present, and he has an unknown return date. David Ruiz was at the possible level for us here, and we'll see in part two, we may be able to update his likelihood of making the squad, or whether he's over that injury. And then we do have a player who was at the possible level but is out of contention, and that is Carlos Melendez. He has been out with a cruciate ligament tear from all the way back in early November up to the present time. We're doing this in mid-May here, and he's not expected back until June 30th. So that is well after the tournament begins. So we don't expect to see Carlos Melendez, and he was only a possible candidate at that. Okay, closing thoughts. I'll just say towards the end in November and March, they did bring in a few new players and then left players off the team who had been on it for a while. So a bit of doubt created at the end there. Perhaps we'll get some clarity by looking at the two friendlies in June if we do the podcast after that. And that's all we'll say here. For some teams, some of the top teams, we're talking about whether they'll send their best players, but I don't think that's a concern for Honduras. I think their top candidates will come to the Cup. Okay, so we'll finish with a preview of part two. So part one, we've been concerned with the candidates and their likelihood of selection for the squad. In part two, we'll be a bit more concerned with who the starters will be. So we're going to go through our list again and let you know who made the preliminary and final squad. And we will emphasize any notable non-selections and also any surprise inclusions. I'm hoping one of those will be Albert Ellis. Any surprise inclusions and any new players, there's always a few who come onto the scene, and we'll update those injuries, especially the one for David Ruiz, and any new injuries that we learn about. That brings us to the end of our media cast. So I'll go back to the graphic here. We would like to thank Future Bass for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. The title is called Alone.